hi, so sorry. I've been out of the office all day. Are you still interested in selling? And he's like, house is listed. And he's like, oh.
You do not need 20% down for a loan anymore.
No.
To buy a house. You can buy a house with 0% down. Will AI take over real estate? We're going to have a problem.
If you need to sell your house fast, this is the process.
Will the housing market crash? What is wrong with your house?
We're going off-roading with real estate.
Taking it out of the Tahoe and bringing in backup.
Welcome to UnderContract, Taking Backup.
So we're going to find out what the top 10 most searched real estate questions on the internet are, and we're going to answer them. We're going to answer them for you.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go. What's number one?
I mean, we hear this all the time. People ask us in general, but is it a good time to buy a house? I love this question because everybody wants to time everything. Time it. Chelsey, is it a good time to buy a house?
The best time to buy a house as a buyer is when you are ready and you can afford it. So basically, you have to kind of go through the steps of the pre-approval. You have to get your debt to income information, your credit. You have to know what you're looking for. And if the bank says, yes, you can afford it, that is when you should buy a house. Yes, we can take into consideration the market, but it's really a personalized time frame.
Do you know what my favorite answer is in real estate? And I had a real estate instructor who said this all the time. I will never, ever forget her. And Becky, if you're listening, this one's for you. Becky Jones, it depends. She would literally bring out a package of depends. Real estate is so tailored to who you are. Mm-hmm. There is not a one size fits all. So is it a good time to buy a house? It depends. Mm-hmm. Are you a first-time home buyer? Are you looking for a second home? Are you looking for a vacation home? Are you an investor? Mm-hmm. Are you looking for, it depends. What's your situation?
Right.
What kind of house are you looking for? Mm-hmm. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. And then depending on that answer, then let's find out, is it a good time for you to buy? Because if you're like, I need a home right now because my lease is running out in a month, then yes, it's a good time for you to buy right now, regardless of what's happening in the world, what's happening in the economic situation, what's happening with interest rates, then yes, you need to buy. And there's always a way that we can find programs to help. You don't have a big down payment? Great. There's a USDA loan with zero money down. You don't have great credit? FHA. You need help with more money down? There's Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services that helps with, they have grants, 0% loans. There's all kinds of stuff that we can help with. If you're an investor, is it a great time to buy? Well, then let's look at what you're looking to do. Maybe you want to hold off because it's rumored that interest rates are going to go lower. So maybe it's not a great time for you to buy. It depends on your situation. Right. So I love it when people go to the internet. Is it a good time to buy? Because they'll just give you blanket answers, which we know how much I love sweeping generalizations and blanket answers. But what does the internet say? It says the perennial question. This question tops searches due to fluctuating mortgage rates. Obviously, everybody wants to take advantage of the best mortgage rates. And of course, economic uncertainty drives people's decisions. So even the internet says the answer depends on your finances in the local market. Local market.
Yep. Which is where your local real estate professional comes in. So there's other things that if you're really worried about the interest rate, I think we've talked about this before. You marry the house and you date the rate. You can always refinance. But something that you can also do before you even purchase is you can buy down your rate. And not a ton of buyers know that. But if you have your down payment and then you still have additional funds and you want to pay extra to basically take it from 7% to 6% or anywhere in between or even lower or whatever, you have that ability to do that. And that's where your loan originator comes in and tells you this is what you're looking at for a price point to bring that down.
Creativity.
Yeah. Well, this kind of takes us to question number 2. How much do I need for a down payment on a house?
I love getting this question because people still think they need 20% down. And I want to know why people think they need to go FHA when they have a good credit score. You do not need 20% down for a loan anymore.
Nope.
To buy a house. You can buy a house with 0% down.
There's lots of programs and financing options. You've got the VA, you've got the FHA, the USDA, you've got the conventional, and then
locally, depending on what town you're in, what city you're in, if your location has programs like an Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services like we do, they have creative programs, grants, and loans. They have maybe a community housing trust like ours does, where they have homes for first-time homebuyers of low to moderate income, where you only have to meet 80% of the area median income to qualify. So there's a lot of ways to get to break into the housing market. That is usually the biggest barrier to entry into buying a home. You know, you're either hearing it from your parents or from a neighbor or from a peer or from a coworker is like, hey, how much money do you have saved up to buy a house? Because there are costs associated with buying, just like with selling. So in addition to a down payment, you are going to have some closing costs. But there, like we said, are loans that you don't need a down payment. Sometimes you need 0% down. Sometimes you don't need a lot of money saved for a down payment. You still have to have some money because there's still going to be some closing costs. So it, again, my favorite word for this, it depends, because each location is their closing costs are going to be different.
Let's talk about what some of the closing costs could be.
Right. There might be some misconceptions about if there's no money down loans. I think if you're thinking no money down, you might be like, oh, hey, 0% loan, but there's all these other fees. And if you don't pay in time, then the interest rate's going to go up to 30%. It's not like a credit card.
Right.
No money down doesn't mean 0% interest on a mortgage. You're still going to have interest payment.
Also, this thing that we do a lot called seller concessions, where a buyer can finance some of their closing costs. And basically, you just add that amount onto the purchase price. And so, kind of give you an example. If the house is listed at $200,000 and you are going to use seller concessions, I think it's up to 6%. You would then take that and use that as seller concessions, financing that into your purchase price, so adding that on top of it. So if the house is listed at $200,000 and you are financing $212,000, the seller is still only getting $200,000, but the bank overall is going to get the $212,000.
So basically, you're then turning around and asking that seller to take $12,000 of that $212,000 you've given them to turn around and pay your closing costs. You're saying, here, seller, take $212,000, and of that $12,000, you're going to then pay it to the bank to cover my closing costs. So it's a way for a buyer to mortgage closing costs because the buyer is still on the hook for $212,000. There's a lot of creative ways to come up with a down payment for a house. When people ask, how much do I need for a down payment? And I'll always go back.
It depends.
To my answer. It depends.
But really, the best way to figure out what path you should take, what road you should go down, would be to work with your bank, work with your local, and I say local, I mean, you can use anybody, you can use the bigger names online, but the local banks are going to know the market better. They're going to know the programs, the grants, what's available. And basically, they're going to take all of your financial information, they're going to run it, and they're going to say, here's 3 options for you. You can either do this, this, or this. And here's where you put the most money down. Here's where a grant is available. Here's this. And you can really see what is best for you down payment wise, your upfront closing costs, and then also seeing what you're going to be paying every single month. That's really the best way that you know what works for your financial situation. I know some of our local banks, they get first-time homebuyer grants at the beginning of the year, and when they're gone, they're gone. If you're thinking of buying, say, you're starting the process October, November, December, come January, those grants are going to be available again. So if you wait maybe a few months, but have already started that conversation with your originator, you can be in the process and you can, I mean, there's a chance that those grants will be available when you are ready to jump. So that's something to also take into consideration when you're looking at time frame.
Another thing you reminded me of to take into consideration when is it a good time to buy a house is also if there's inventory on the market and if there's competition. In this area, anyway, for the last couple of years, there's been a lack of inventory, meaning a lack of houses on the market. So, and the demand for houses have been higher. So that's created a multiple offer situation. Recently, though, we've seen inventory increase, meaning more houses have come on the market. Buyer demand has eased a little bit. Buyer demand has been met by the rising inventory. So it's been a little bit kinder to buyers lately. That is another metric to pay attention to. Inventory, how much inventory there is compared to demand. And that would be something to ask a realtor, and that's a hyper local stat, is absorption rate. How long it would take for the entire, all the inventory on the market to sell. And you can get that stat from a realtor.
What's our absorption rate right now?
I think it's, well, the last time I did it was a couple weeks ago, and I think it was like 3.4 months. And it's rising. It's almost to 4 months. But now that we're in the slower months, we're in the winter months, it could be a little less because that's typically when people don't list houses. So, but we are now at the highest absorption rate we've been in 2 or 3 years. So if that's a metric that you want to keep track of, then definitely ask a local realtor. Taking all of that into consideration, the number 3 most searched real estate question on the internet: will the housing market crash? This one, my typical answer does not apply here. Will the housing market crash? No. Because they're thinking about 2008 and 2011. And they're thinking about the no-doc loans of 2011 when it was a bubble. And I can tell you right now, it's the post-pandemic fears that have been keeping this relevant. The rising prices, the multiple offers, that's why people keep asking if it's going to be a housing market crash, because they're envisioning 2008 and 2011 and Florida market and all of that. And it's not, because right now what we're seeing is a literal simple supply and demand economics 101. Lack of supply, increased demand. That is what's driving the market. Period. Done. End of story.
The only way I could ever see a housing market crash is if the banks changed their requirements and loosened up the restrictions.
Exactly. And there's that.
There, you know, if you have ever gone through the buying process, there is so much, there's so much paperwork.
It's more strict now.
So
it sounds like you need a really good real estate agent, which is then why people go to number 4 and say, how do I find a good real estate agent?
The difference between a good real estate agent and maybe a 6-7 agent. I actually just started working with these sellers, and they had reached out about a month ago, and they said, we are interested in selling our home. We are interviewing multiple agents to see who is the best fit. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, absolutely. We ended up having like a 45-minute phone conversation before we even met. I go to the house, I kind of go through all the paperwork, the process. Shortly after I left, I reached back out and it's just, thanks so much for meeting with me. Here's the names, the contact information of who you asked for, blah, blah, blah. I end up getting the listing. They said, you came and you knew your shit. You were so prepared. You walked us through the entire thing. And 2 nights ago, the one seller, he texted me and was like, how do I respond to this? I was like, respond to what? And he sent me a screenshot. So we met a month ago. A month to the day, he gets a text response from one of the other agents. Hi, so sorry, I've been out of the office all day. Are you still interested in selling? And he's like, house is listed. And he's like, oh, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, you never responded. It's been a month. He's like, do you happen to have anybody interested in my house though? Because, you can bring a buyer.
Hold on.
Yeah.
After a month, the agent says, been out of the office all day.
Yes.
It's a long day.
Yeah. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and maybe just say it was like cell phone error. You know how like sometimes
this is true.
Sometimes our phones don't ring and then all of a sudden we have a voicemail from 2 days ago. That is a real thing. We were just complaining.
It freaked me out. It freaked me out. and I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, this was like a couple weeks ago, I got all these voicemails and I was freaked out. But I do realize that I had answered them. Something happened though. My phone went nuts.
So I'm going to give this agent the benefit of the doubt that it was cell phone error and he didn't actually just like pick up his phone a month later and was like, hi, thanks so much for reaching out.
My day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
Okay, I get it. But at the same time, you're a weirdo. Like, dude, that's weird.
That's aggressive.
That's aggressive. That's aggressive.
If I'm having 3 days in one, I need 3 of me.
But I understand I understand what he's trying to say, but that's aggressive. What I understand what he's trying to say is it doesn't take there's no longer a 9-to-5 day anymore. No, I'm
also
this.
going to circle back. How do I find a good attorney? Good loan originator?
It all starts with the good real estate agent. You want to know why? They are the connector. They know all of those people. Literally, that real estate agent is the concierge. Mm-hmm. That real estate agent says, you want to go here. The real estate agent is the phone book. Mm-hmm. The real estate agent has the experience.
Yep. So a good communicator as well.
Local expertise, reviews, track record. Mm-hmm. And again, I literally tell people this. Interview. Mm-hmm. Interview. Mm-hmm. Interview people. Dude, have fun with it. Of course, then what's the next most logical searched real estate question on the internet?
Mortgage rates.
What are the current mortgage rates? Yeah, they fluctuate daily. So
they do.
My bet is when this airs, the interest rates are going to be 5.99. Who's going to take that bet?
I still see 6.
Okay. Over under.
Okay.
The under is 6.
Okay.
In 2026.
I still think it'll be over.
Okay. But you know what? Of course, there's always the national mortgage rates. And we know how mortgage rates work. Mm-hmm. 10-year treasury yields. I did a Tahoe talk on this. Mm-hmm. That's where the mortgage rates follow, the 10-year treasury yield. We know how this works. When the Fed cuts the rates, it's actually what the Fed is lending to the banks. And the actual mortgage rate follows the 10-year treasury yield. So if you really want to know, I would say instead of Googling, I would call a local lender. Or if you have a connection with a local lender, text your lender and be like, hey, what are the mortgage rates?
But again, it kind of circles back to you can always buy down your rate if that's something. So you are not set. And a lot of times you can shop around and some local banks will rate match.
If it's really important to you and it fits in with your financial goals, you can go from a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan. 15-year loan has a 4-point-something interest rate. 15-year loans, 10-year loans have a lower interest rate.
Yep.
So there's that.
You can always refinance.
Next question. This one is a big one. This makes much more sense. Should I buy or should I rent?
It depends.
Oh, it depends. Chelsea's catching on. It depends.
I am. Are you going to be putting down roots? Are you only going to be staying in an area for 6 months? Are you looking to expand the size of your household? Are you looking to shrink it? Are you looking to move in 10 years to be closer to family? Or are you looking for another job?
Very unpopular opinion time. I'm a realtor and not everybody should be a homeowner.
And a lot of people don't know that just because we sell houses, we can also do rentals as well.
Yep, we can help people rent. Mm-hmm. I actually did help somebody rent. We even have a team member who does rentals. Mm-hmm. And listen, we're here to help regardless. Mm-hmm. We will help if you need housing. We help with housing. It sounds like a hashtag. If you are not ready to take care of a house, if you are not ready for everything that goes along with homeownership, then you should rent. Yeah.
You know, I always see these reels that it says, you're already paying someone's mortgage. Why not pay your own? That doesn't work with everybody.
And you know what? I kind of like that and I kind of don't because it doesn't equate. Honestly, that is simplifying it way too much. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from landlords and realtors. I'm a landlord myself. I have owned rental properties, and let me tell you, it doesn't equate. You're actually not paying somebody else's mortgage because there's more to owning a property than a mortgage. There's maintenance, there's taxes, there's the water bill, there's the electric bill, there's so much more. So when you see that rent, you're probably barely covering that owner's expenses. Sometimes homeownership is not for everybody. You have to look at your situation.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, if you are in a situation where you want to buy, you want to have some sort of control over your monthly expenses, and you want, because rent will continue to go up, and you want to control what your monthly housing cost will be, then take a look at buying. And if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of it and you want to say, here's what I want my monthly housing cost to be, go to a lender and say, this is what I want my monthly cost to be. And then you work backwards into it. And then they'll say, okay, if this is what you want your monthly number to be, all in, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and you work it backwards, they'll say, okay, then this is the end number. This is the purchase price that you should be looking at. And then you go talk to a realtor and say, this is the purchase price I should be looking at. And they'll say, okay, based on this number, then you should be looking in this area because then the taxes, the property taxes will be this in all of these areas.
Yep.
And that's how you work it backwards. So you just take it and work it backwards.
Yep.
The question, should I buy or should I rent? Break it down into something really small.
Yep.
First of all, do I even want to take care of a house on my weekends? Do I want to mow my lawn? Do I want to fix the faucet? Do I want to do all these things? No? Well, then rent.
I like
So
this one.
we go from buying to selling.
Yep.
Chelsey, how much is my house worth? Of course you would start there on the internet.
Yep.
That's the greatest question for the internet.
I mean, they could be going to one of the real estate listing websites.
Heartandhomes.com. Heartandhomes.com.
That gives their estimate without even seeing the house. So your house is worth only what someone is willing to pay.
And what you are willing to accept.
Yep. However, as an agent, it is our job to kind of narrow that range down based off of similar sold properties in that area. And the best way to do it is to see your house in person, to pull comps and meet with you, see what you've done upgrade-wise, see what still needs to be done, and then taking other properties right around the corner in the same neighborhood, in the same zip code, and then comparing it to that property and kind of adjusting that to give you a better idea of that scale that someone is willing to pay.
I call it the Professional Equity Analysis Report.
Well, that's fancy.
AKA PAIR. I like what it says here. With the internet answers, it says, but a professional will provide the most accurate value. You want to know why? Because we're in the field doing the work. We're actually in the houses, seeing them. And when we say we're the sold comparables, you know what that is. What we're really doing is we're telling you buyer behavior. We're telling you what a buyer will pay for a similar style house in a similar time frame. We're just saying a buyer just bought a similar style home. So this is telling us what a buyer will pay.
That's what your home's worth.
That's the market. We're not.
And it's changing. So, unfortunately, there are times where price drops happen. And it's because the house has been on for a certain period of time. The market's changing. The buyer demand is changing. The inventory is changing. The rates have changed. All of that still kind of feeds into that equation and that value. There's a lot of moving parts in that as well. And it's our job to be able to guide you through that. And sometimes it does lead to price drop. Other times it leads to multiple offers and going in the other direction. It's really just a matter of who the buyers are, what they're willing to spend, and how many of them there are out there.
Market economics. We don't make it up. I love that question. How much is my house worth? We'll answer that for you. We'll interpret it for you. The 8th most searched real estate question is, what are the steps to buying a house? This one's huge. There are so many steps to buying a house. There are so many steps to buying a house that I created a 40-page guide. We have a 40-page home buyer's guide. And each area is different. Key steps. They even broke it to just key steps. Pre-approval, agent selection, home search, offer, inspection, closing. I feel like a robot just saying that. I love it. They just broke it down into these 5 things.
Yeah, that sounds so simple.
I mean, don't overthink it, but the steps to buying, even before you get to buying, you have to ask yourself, should I buy? Number 1. 2, is it a good time to buy? 3, how much do I need for a down payment? Do I need a down payment? That's even before you start. That's like the first step. That's the first step to even buying a house. Then
and starting to consider where.
Oh,
where
and
do you
then
want it to be?
How do I find a good real estate agent? And then you start the real process.
Yep.
So you can expect the home buying process to almost be a year if you're a first-time home buyer.
From start to finish. Because you also have to take into consideration the search. Because most times you're not going with the first house you see.
Correct, but don't write off the fact if it is the first house you see. Oh, gosh. The 9th question. How do I sell my house fast? Price it right.
Make
Done.
it
Price it
make
right.
it so difficult for a buyer to say no.
Oh, that's a great one. Make it as difficult as possible for a buyer to say no. There is no house problem that price cannot fix.
Very true.
I don't know how fast you can do anything in New York with real estate, but
We're working on getting that faster.
we are.
Yep. But the best way to do it would be to first interview and then find the right agent to list your house. And then you're going to basically do all of the steps that you would do under contract. You're going to do a pre-listing inspection. You're going to test for radon. You're going to order a survey. You're going to pump and certify your septic. You're going to do your well water test. You're going to get your abstract, and you're going to get that to your attorney before you even go under contract.
Or you're going to get your title updated.
Yes.
Yeah. All of it done.
Yes.
Boom. Ready to go.
You're going to find all of your paperwork. You're going to hand it to your agent and be like, here's the thing though. When you order a survey, when you do a pre-listing inspection, it is money out of your pocket up front.
It's not money out of your pocket. It's an investment to make money.
True.
Why wouldn't you spend less than $1,000? Because I know what the cost is. Why wouldn't you invest a total of $900, maybe $1,000, depending on what tier inspection you get? Surveys, $500, maybe. Depending on how big your land is, right? To stake and flag it. Why wouldn't you invest $1,000 to sell your home in 30 days for $400,000?
If your goal is to sell your house fast and sell it typically for more money, more interest, more money is typically how it ends. If you need to sell your house fast, this is the process that you need to do it. And you need to find an agent who's going to help guide you to get it sold fast.
I think some people mistake fast for cheap. And they think, how do I sell my house fast means that I'm going to get less money. When in reality, fast means expediting the process. It doesn't mean you're going to make less money. When I think of fast, it means efficient. How do I sell my house efficiently?
Sellers have that stereotype that my agent just wants to sell it fast just because they want to make money and be done. No. We want to sell it fast because that is typically where you're going to make the most money, because that is our job. Our job is to sell your house and make you the top dollar that a buyer is willing to pay in the shortest amount of time frame. Because the longer you sit, the longer you wait, the less you are going. So it's not a bad thing. And we are just stereotyped with, oh, you're just pricing it there because you want to sell it fast and be done with it. Yes, I want to sell it fast. Yes, I want to make you the most amount of money.
The stereotype is, why are you still on the market? What is wrong with your house?
Yep.
It's true. So yeah, I want to sell fast because then that means you have a hot commodity. Your property is something that's wanted and people will fight over it.
Yep.
The longer you sit, the perceived value, like the longer you sit on the market at that price, you're stale. Sorry, you're a stale biscuit now. Like what? Like people don't want you.
Yep.
I'm going to market you like you're a hot piece of property because you are. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
In this scenario, fast does not mean cheap. I love that. I love that for you.
Does not mean cheap.
This is a great one. I'm surprised this is number 10. This is our top 10. I feel like late night with Jay Leno. I'm old. I almost said Carson. That's how old I am. Top 10. What are closing costs? What's my answer?
It depends.
It depends. Depends on your state that you're in. It depends. In New York State, in Tompkins County.
Right. It depends on what county you're in.
Also depends if you're a buyer or a seller.
Yep.
If you are a seller in Tompkins County, you can estimate closing costs to be about 6 to 8% of your sales price. If you are a buyer, you can estimate your closing costs not with a down payment. That's separate. Let's take a down payment out, because if your down payment is 0%, you can estimate your closing costs to be about 2 to 3% of your loan. That's the quick and dirty. That's the fastest answer I've given.
But everybody's going to have closing costs.
Yep. If your agent has not prepped you as a seller that you have closing costs associated with selling, we're going to have a problem.
How I end all of my listing appointments, because they always say, well, what am I going to walk away with? What am I looking at cost-wise? And we have our SellerNet spreadsheet where we can plug in, if we list it and sell it at this price, here's your closing costs. Here's this. And obviously, it's just an estimated value. It's going to change, especially with prorated taxes. It gives a seller a good idea of, oh, well, I'm walking away with a lot more than I thought. Or, I've got a lot more closing costs than originally anticipated, and everything's recording fees, transfer fees, considering septic and well and taxes and commission and
Survey.
survey.
Can you tell I just dealt with this?
I'm actually working with a survey right now that is on the much higher end, unfortunately. At the end of the day, it's that overall number that they need to know. And the attorneys, once we get a closing date, you're going to get the closing statement. You're going to see exactly what that big check is going to look like. You're going to have your mortgage paid off. You're going to have this and this and this paid off. And you're going to walk away with a check, and then you're done.
That's what matters. People want to know, what's in it for me? What is the end game, really?
Yep.
So when you can show somebody the real numbers that they're working with, that's what really matters.
Right. And it works for a buyer too. So as a seller, you're going to want your SellerNet spreadsheet, your closing statement. As a buyer, you want to ask your lender for that cash to close worksheet, because it's going to break everything down for you, especially when it's property specific, because they're going to estimate the taxes into that. So you're going to see what you need to bring to closing, what your closing costs are, and what your monthly payment is going to be.
Yes, that's important. So if your lender can't provide that, then you may want to talk to some other lenders.
Yep. Because you don't want to close, not know what you're buying.
Don't be surprised, please. I want to be conservative with numbers because I want you to get to the closing table and be happily surprised, not the other way around.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, closing costs, that's a big one. One of the things that's currently talked about, right, is AI and how AI is going to take over. So will AI take over real estate, or is AI going to do this? Or can I buy my house through AI? Or can I sell my house through AI? And how do I sell my house on my own? Or how do I do for sale by owner? Top 10, even though we probably hear it a lot, that never made it on here. And that just goes to show that people are always going to need a person to do this. What I have not seen on here is how it's done for anything for real estate.
To make it not personalized. But that's the problem.
Everything
about this is a personalized experience.
Yeah.
It is tailored to that specific person, that specific situation, that specific house, that specific market. You can't just generalize every single real estate transaction into one group. And that is why it's going to stay different.